Yes, I'm Nathan Teigland, and I'm a special agent with the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation assigned to the Cybercrime Unit in Council Bluffs.
And Nathan Teigland, I've been calling you Teigland now for a while, so I apologize. Could you spell your first and last name for the record?
Sure. It's Nathan, N-A-T-H-A-N, last is spelled Teigland, T-E-I-G-L-A-N-D.
Thank you. And you indicated that you work for the State of Iowa Department Division of Criminal Investigation, is that correct?
That's right, the Department of Public Safety, Division of Criminal Investigation.
And how long have you been with the DCI?
Since 1997.
And in your capacity as an employee for the Division of Criminal Investigation, do you have a title?
I do. My title is Special Agent.
And in the DCI, is there any special area within that division in which you work?
There is.
And what would that be?
I'm assigned to a unit of the DCI that's called the Cybercrime Unit. Specifically, within the Cybercrime Unit, I'm assigned as a forensic computer examiner. So I do examinations of most of what my job is. I examine digital evidence, computers, cell phones, digital media of different types, CDs, DVDs, hard drives, that sort of stuff.
Could you briefly go through your post-high school education?
Sure. After I graduated high school, I attended Northwestern College up in Orange City, Iowa, where I received a Bachelor of Arts degree.
And did you go through the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy training?
Yes, I began the basic academy for Department of Public Safety in July of 1997.
And after completion of that, where did you go?
Upon completion of the academy, I was assigned to the gaming unit, so Riverboat Gaming at the time, in Council Bluffs, Iowa. And after 2 years, I was promoted to be a special agent in DCI. And then in 2004, I was officially assigned to the Cybercrime Unit, where additional training commenced. Yes.
Mr. Teigland, I'm handing this mark that states it's in 11. Are you familiar with the States Exhibit 11?
I am.
What is States Exhibit 11?
This is my curriculum vitae.
And what is a curriculum vitae?
It's a synopsis or a summary of my training and experience in my current capacity with DCI as a computer forensic examiner.
At this time, Your Honor, the state would ask that it's marked Exhibit 11 be introduced to evidence.
No objection.
11 to see.
Mr. Teigland, how did you become involved in this case?
My involvement began in May, it was May 12th of 2010, when a special agent with the DCI that was assigned to the Major Crime Unit submitted forensic or digital media to my office in Council Bluffs for analysis related to, at that time, related to a missing person investigation.
And specifically in this case, I think you referred to it as digital media. Do you recall exactly what form or manner of digital media it was in this case?
Yes, it was one computer.
May I approach you, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Teigland, I'm showing you what's been marked as States Exhibit 16 and 17. Are you familiar with those photographs?
I am, yes.
What is States Exhibit, start with States Exhibit 17?
State's Exhibit 17 is a photograph that I took personally of the inside of the computer that I examined. claims specifically relating to the placement and condition of the hard disk drives that are attached to the motherboard of this computer.
And how about State's Exhibit 16?
16 is a photograph I also took myself of the E-Machines tower that was submitted by the agent for analysis in this case.
And you had indicated or testified that you took those photographs yourself, right?
I did.
Fair and accurate representations of the items in the photographs at the time you received them?
Yes, they are.
At this time, Your Honor, the state would offer Exhibit 16 and 17 as evidence.
No objection.
16 and 17 are received. Would it make sense to take our lunch break while we, whichever we get next?
It might take you 5 minutes to get
We'll take our lunch break now and until 1 o'clock. And please remember the admonition.
All rise.
Smith, we continue with your examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commissioner published State's Exhibit 16 and 17.
Pardon?
Commissioner published State's Exhibit 16
Yes.
and 17. Putting on the envelope, State's Exhibit 16. Mr. Teigland, is that the computer front of the computer that you described?
Yes, it is.
State's Exhibit 17.
Mr. Smith, you're going to have to speak up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To the jury.
Put State's Exhibit 17 on the envelope.
But the folks way over there are not.
Sure. I put on the envelope State's Exhibit 17. Yes, State's Exhibit 17. Is this the back of that same computer?
That's the inside with the side cover removed. Yes,
Okay.
so that's the inside of the computer.
Okay. And in this case, there were 3 hard drives that you examined, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Teigland, is that sitting at the right position now, or is that sideways?
That is sideways. So to your left would be the bottom of the computer.
Okay.
That's correct.
You had stated that you had examined 3 hard drives on this machine.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, one, I have the metal pointer on right now with the green top. Is that one of them?
Yes, it is.
One of the hard drives. The other thing is on the right-hand side of this photograph, the red kind of lining here, that be another hard drive?
Yes.
Okay. And then the third one, that would just be to the right of that one?
Yes.
Mr. Teigland, when you examine a hard drive, can you describe to the jury what that process all entails?
Sure. In this case, there were 3 hard drives contained in that computer. So after the case is checked in and the computer is ready to be examined, I will take pictures of it just like I did here in the shape and the condition that it was in when it was checked in. And I removed the side of the computer chassis of the computer case to get inside of the computer. And when it was removed, I took the picture and found that there were 3 hard drives. So each of those hard drives needed to be examined. And when a forensic exam is done of a computer hard drive, the hard drive is removed from the computer. Two of those computers were connected to the motherboard via the ribbon cable, or the IDE ribbon cable, so that those had to be removed from those hard drives. The hard drive is then taken out and connected to my forensic computer through what's called a write blocker, so that when I attach a hard drive to my computer, I can't make any changes to it, just to keep that evidence in the exact same shape as when I took it in, so nothing changes. So after that hard drive, one at a time in this case, are connected to my forensic computer through the write blocker, or the write protector, I'll make what's referred to as a forensic copy, or a forensic image of that hard disk. My examination is actually done on the copy, which is an exact duplication that's error checked to make sure that nothing has changed on the hard drive throughout my examination. The reason why we do that is, as we'll probably discuss later, is just like all of you probably know, computer equipment goes bad eventually. So what I need to make sure I do is to make a copy of that hard drive in the event that there's any sort of a hardware failure at any point. So when I do my examination, it can take several days or even weeks, and I want to do my examination and do the processing on the copy that I made, not on the original evidence.
Mr. Teigland, can you describe the particulars of the, we'll call it the first hard drive 1 that you examined?
Yes, I believe what we refer to as the first hard drive is a Magnetic Data Technologies hard disk drive, which is just simply the brand of the hard drive. It's officially an 80 gigabyte hard drive that was attached to the IDE ribbon cable in the computer. It was attached in such a way that it was available to the user as a storage volume. There was an operating system installed on that hard disk, but the computer was not currently booting to that copy of the operating system. So it was installed in the computer, and you can store files to it, but it was not currently being booted with using an operating system.
Mr. Teigland, you referenced an operating system. Was that operating system to this hard drive 1 registered to anybody?
Yes, the operating system that was installed on this hard drive was registered to Mark.
And if you could describe to the jury or explain to the jury what registration in this context means specifically.
Sure. Maybe some of you have purchased a computer from a store that's brand new. One of the things that a computer user will do when you buy a computer is register the operating system, set the computer up. And usually it's Windows, and in this case it was Windows XP, so a little bit of an older operating system. But it asks you a series of questions like, where do you live? So it knows what time zone to set this computer to. What's your name? And that would be the registered user. So in this case, the registered user would be Mark. So when this operating system was installed on this particular hard drive, the hard drive 1, the registered user was listed as Mark.
Moving to the second hard drive, if you could explain in the same fashion you did the first, the particulars of that second hard drive.
Certainly. The second hard drive in this case was, as we were looking at the picture of the inside of the computer chassis, was actually physically installed within the computer in the correct position. The make of that hard drive, the brand was a Western Digital, and it was a larger hard drive. I believe it was a 160 gigabyte hard drive, and that also had a computer operating system installed on it, which was also Microsoft Windows XP.
This second hard drive, was it registered to?
It was also registered to Mark.
Do you recall the date that software on this second hard drive was installed?
Yes, the operating system was installed on August 23rd of 2007 in that second hard drive.
Moving to the third hard drive, can you provide the jury the same information you did as
Sure.
1 and 2?
Sure. In the picture we were looking at, there were 3 hard drives, and the prosecutor pointed all 3 of them. The first one was just hanging there, right? It looked like it was hanging loose, attached to the ribbon cable. The second hard drive was also attached to the motherboard using that same ribbon cable with a second connector. The third hard drive that I was just asked about was not attached. It was the second one that the prosecutor pointed to. You could see the IDE connectors that didn't have a cable attached to them. So this third hard drive wasn't attached to the motherboard of this computer. And it also had, like we visited about earlier, it had a failure. So it was a crashed hard drive and it was inoperable. So instead of taking the hard drive out, it was just disconnected from within the computer.
Mr. Teigland, after you have made a forensic copy of a hard drive, what then do you do next as part of your examination of these devices?
This depends on the type of case. Many times I will do an examination of the hard drive image using a specific forensic examination tool for certain artifacts that are requested by the lead investigator in the case. I work a variety of different types of cases throughout most of the state of Iowa. So when I take in a case or a computer, this isn't I'm not the lead investigator on the case. So it just depends that I have to be told what is the investigator looking for. In this case, it was a missing persons case. So they requested that I look for internet history, any communications that maybe the missing person had been having with anybody that would lead to his whereabouts, and also any documents or any sort of diary or notes that might lead the law enforcement to know his whereabouts.
Did you generate a report on the internet browser history with regards to these 3 hard drives?
I did.
And was there anything that you were able to capture as far as browser history on the 3rd hard drive?
Yes, the Western Digital hard drive, the third one that I discussed was the inoperable hard drive. So there was no internet history available. It could not even be spun up to make a copy to examine.
In the first hard drive, is there any browser history?
No, that operating system on that hard drive had been installed very recently prior to my examination, and it had not been used to navigate the internet.
Is there any information that was part of your report extracted from the first or the 3rd hard drive?
No.
So referring to browser history from here forward would just be to the 2nd hard drive?
Yes.
Explain to the jury, Mr. Teigland, what browser history is.
When I use the word browser, I'm referring to a software program that is utilized to go onto the net, to the internet, and navigate through different web pages or resources available on the net. The most notable of them is Internet Explorer, and that's the one that was used in this case.
Any question?
Yes.
Mr. Teigland, I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 14. Are you familiar with State's Exhibit 14?
Yes.
What is it?
It is the last 2 pages, so page 589 and 590 of
Let me interrupt you, sorry. The last 2 pages of what?
of the report that was produced by a software tool that I use to extract internet history from computer hard disks.
So this report will be the last 2 pages of the browser history to the hard drive number 2.
That's right.
At this time, Your Honor, the state would offer State's Exhibit 14 into evidence.
No objection.
14.
Commissioner Coltrane?
Yes.
Teigland, the image, or it states Exhibit 14, which is displayed on the Elmo. Can you explain to the jury what each one of those three sections is?
Sure. Each of those is a separate internet history entry within a file that is designed for the user on this computer whose name is Mark. And the file itself is called index.dat. That's just simply a data.dat, D-A-T, excuse me. And that's simply a database file that's created for each user on this computer that records internet history for that user.
On that, in that photograph, on an exhibit, there is the term of the subject last visited,
Yes.
and it actually appears twice in each section. Can you explain the jury difference between the two of those?
Absolutely. The last visit at UTC is in universal time, or Greenwich Mean Time, so that's hour 0. And last visited local is the actual local time where the computer is located. So it would be central time, because this was in Sac County.
Through your examination, were you able to determine the last time the browser history was accessed?
Yes.
I'm going to show you the second page of Stacy's. I'm going to show you the second page of Stacy's Exhibit 14.
Mr. Smith, you are going to have to speak up.
I
If you want
apologize.
the jury to hear you, you're going to have to speak up.
I apologize, Your Honor.
Well, don't speak to me, speak to them, because they're the people who need to hear.
Mr. Teigland, what I'm showing you has been marked or entered into evidence of Stacy's Exhibit 14. I'm showing you the second page of that. You indicated that this is a browser history.
That's correct.
And I asked you whether you were able to capture the last time the browser history was used or accessed. Is that shown on the second page of Exhibit 14?
Yes, it is.
Where is it at on that particular page?
In Central Standard Time, the entry would be under last visited. On the bottom entry of this report, it would be the fourth line down, last visited local. So that's it's given in Central Time, Central Standard Time, and it indicates it's June 4th, 2009 at 8:08 and 51 seconds p.m. or 20:08:51.
And referring to last visited local, am I getting that correctly?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. You indicated earlier the username and the registered name is Mark.
Yes.
Am I accurately showing you what that is here?
Yes.
Okay. And again, the time and date of this last browser history entry is what?
Is June 4th of 2009, 20:08:51, and that says Thursday.
Mr. Teigland, can you explain to the jury the process of logging into a computer?
With Microsoft XP, Windows XP, this operating system, a specific user would be logged in to this computer. In this case, there's only one user available. Sometimes sometimes if a family owns a computer, they might have 3 or 4 different users. But in this case, there was just one user to log in as, and the username was Mark.
How does logging off, after you've logged in, how does logging off, how does that process work?
Well, I'm sure all of you have logged off to a computer using Windows. You just simply hit Start or the little Windows logo and hit Shut Down or Log Off. Specifically Shut Down, it would go through a sequence of computing events that would gracefully shut down all of the programs and the operating system and then power the computer down. And then that date is also written in the Windows registry. So that date is recorded when a computer is actually shut down.
And the difference, you had stated something about gracefully stopping the programs. Is there a difference between a manual log off and let's just say I pull the cord to the computer?
Right. If somebody were to go to a tower computer like this one and just pull the power from the back of the computer box, the shutdown date wouldn't be registered because that's not a graceful shutdown. It would just simply remove power from the computer and it would be stopped. So the registry wouldn't record a date of shutdown as it would if the computer was shut down gracefully using the operating system.
In the operating system, Mr. Teigland, does it record or register all shutdowns of the computer?
It records the latest shutdown of the computer.
In your examination of the second hard drive that identified Mark Foster's computer, were you able to determine the last shutdown of the computer?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Teigland, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 13. State's Exhibit 13, Mr. Teigland. Can you tell me what that is?
This is part of a report that I created during my examination of the computer in question, specifically related to the hard drive number 2 that contains the internet history that we've been talking about. Specifically on this report, this refers to the user Mark, and it gives various information specifically about like last login date.
So the last login date, is that readily apparent?
It is, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, it's time for the state to move to offer Exhibit 13 in evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
13, please.
Commission published, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Teigland, you described the login date, the login process. Is that process identified and captured in this exhibit?
Yes, the date when a user would have logged on to this computer with the username Mark.
And specifically, could that be identified, or is it identified as the last log on this exhibit?
That's correct.
Okay, and on this occasion, on this date, or excuse me, in this exhibit, on what date was that last log on?
June 4th, 2009.
And are you able to tell us what time?
Yes, 9:42 and 13 seconds a.m. Yes,
And what is State's Exhibit 12?
it is another portion of the report that I created related to the operating system contained on that hard drive number 2.
And specifically, what does that report demonstrate?
This specifically speaks to the operating system information that's contained on that hard disk, the Microsoft Windows XP registered to Mark. In addition, it also shows the install date of that operating system that I talked about earlier and the last shutdown time.
And that last shutdown time, is that the clean shutdown time that you're referring to?
Yes, that would have to be an actual graceful shutdown using Windows Start shutdown.
This time, Your Honor, the state would move to enter Exhibit 12 into evidence.
No objection.
12 and 2.
Commission to publish, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Teigland, I'm showing you what's been entered into evidence in State's Exhibit 12, the second page of it, with my middle pointer here. Am I correctly identifying the last shutdown date that you had just described?
Yes,
Okay. And that, in this case again, was
June 4th, 2009
at,
at 12:02:36 a.m.
so, is it accurate to state then that the last clean shutdown time was 2 minutes into June 4, 2009?
That's right.
That the last login was at 9:42 a.m. that same day, June 4, 2009?
Yes, a little over 9 hours after.
And that the last internet usage was at 8:08 p.m. that same day?
On June 4th, that's correct.
Mr. Teigland, you had mentioned for another purpose of your forensic examination was to not just identify or extract browser history, but also look for communications.
That's correct.
And you did that, did you do that in this case?
I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Teigland, I'm showing it's been marked as State's Exhibit 15. Are you familiar with State's Exhibit 15?
Yes,
Can you tell the jury what State's Exhibit 15 is?
certainly. It's the email header portion of one of the emails that was provided in the report that I created in this case.
At this time, Your Honor, the state would offer its exhibit number 15 into evidence.
No objection.
15%.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Looking at State's Exhibit 15, Mr. Teigland, you indicated that this was the header data, or header information of an email.
Yes, it's the simple header from an email message.
And I know a lot of people may know this, but just, if you could explain explain the from is,
The from would be the sender of the email.
okay. And in the center of the email in this case, is that the mark off at frontiernet.net?
That's correct.
And the two, what does that mean?
That would be the recipient of the email.
And in this case,
It's listed as John Green or jdgeagle@hotmail.com.
and the date,
The date is the date that that email was sent.
I'm asking questions about emails from this computer. Where on a computer do you find emails that are stored?
Mostly nowadays, if there are emails available on a hard drive, they're going to be stored in what's called an email client, like Microsoft Outlook, that maybe some of you have heard of. That's a process that the computer uses to store and send emails. If a computer user doesn't use a client, a program to manage their emails, if they simply go on the internet and use web-based email, many times there won't be any email content contained on the hard drive because all of that content would be on a server elsewhere.
Would your forensic examination of a computer be able to extract this web-based mail?
Well, it depends in this case, but in this case, there wasn't any available.
Were there other communications that you found during your examination between JDG Eagle and that Mark Foster FrontierNet email?
There might have been some others, a handful. I don't recall exactly how many.
Were you able to locate or identify any email activity after January 19, 2009?
No.
And then, last area, Mr. Teigland, in the exhibits that were entered into evidence, some of those, specifically the last email we saw, as well as some of your reports, they had dates and times on them. How are you, as a forensic examiner of these devices, able to tell whether it actually was 2 o'clock?
One of the steps that is done during an examination of a computer after removal of the hard drives, so that no data is changed on the evidence, is the computer is queried through the basic input-output system, which is a small little program on the motherboard of the computer that maybe, if any of you have ever seen inside of a computer, there's a small battery that looks just like a watch battery on the motherboard of a computer. That battery gives just enough of a charge to the computer to maintain the real-time clock, okay? So that even if power is taken away from the computer, the clock can stay accurate on the computer until the next time that it's booted. So in this case, after removing the hard drives, I booted the computer into its basic input-output system to check the time on the computer's real-time clock with the actual time of day that the examination was done.
So, Mr. Taylor, were you able to verify the accuracy of the computer's clock in relation to real time?
Yes, it was accurate.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
May I pursue this, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want to give you a State's Exhibit 14 back, because I think I just misheard something when you were testifying. That document, you were saying, I thought I heard you say you can tell when the history was accessed the last time, or are you saying the last time something was recorded into the history?
This would be the last time this specific entry that we were discussing, the last one, would be when this content, this universal resource locator, the cache to a TV amps, I'm sorry, cache, C-A-C-H-E, to dot T-V-A-N-T-S, is what I said, was recorded to the index.dat DAT file. So that's when this content hit the computer.
I got you. I thought I heard you say that somehow that was the time that someone last checked the internet. That's not what you're saying, right?
No, this is the last, this is when this content hit the computer from the internet.
I got you. I don't have any more questions.
Anything further, Mr. Smith?
No, Your Honor.
You may step down.
They just wait to speak to you.
Yes.